agencies readily available to assist. Right now, we're hearing ATF, the state police, of course, Morgan State University's police department, and Baltimore City Police. Any other agencies you suspect are involved in this investigation at this time?
I would also add probably FBI could be involved in something like this. There's no indication that they've called in neighboring police departments, but there are a lot of times there are mutual aid agreements. So you will see, as we've seen, the power of the federal government and federal police agencies assisting Baltimore City Police. But Baltimore City Police, as far as we understand, are the lead investigators in this.
I guess we would also have to put yourself in the situation of law enforcement. When they arrive on a scene like that, they don't know what they're going into. They know that there are a lot of people around. There's a chance for just anything at all to happen, mistakes to be made. They have to be very methodical and go to their training when they are involved in a situation like this, particularly anytime there is an active shooter.
And something that we reported on before with active shooter situations, particularly two of them a few years ago back in Harford County, involve the first responders, the paramedics, who have to get in and potentially treat anyone who has been injured, and they also have to take precautions, and they're trained to deal with that because, and we don't know the situation of the four, or we don't know if there were even more people who were shot, but they have to make sure that when it's safe, they can treat those people and try to, get them help, get them to the hospital. And that is something that those first responders train for, not just the police, but the paramedics who responded there tonight as well.
Right, and above and beyond the tragedy of this particular situation, a greater tragedy is that these officers get a lot of training in these types of situations because we're beginning to see them more and more, and we're hoping that something will change that sometime soon.
It's unfortunate, Vic, and we have seen these types of shooting situations over the past few years, even in our area. But, when it happens on a college campus, police have to get to make a perimeter to make sure that there aren't any further victims. And as we've been saying, they just have to make sure there is no more threat. And I suspect that they're just trying to get that under control before they speak to the media and provide some more clarity on exactly what we're looking for, exactly what happened there tonight.
Most definitely, and we want to go back now, Mike. Thank you very much, and we want to recap what we have been telling you all evening since this whole situation broke out. We know that there was an active shooter on the campus of Morgan State University. At least 4 people were injured. Shelter in place remains in effect right now, and police are continuing their investigation. We, of course, will continue to monitor the situation and come back live when there's a news conference. Hello, everyone. I'm Vic Carter, and thank you for joining us here on CBS News Baltimore. We want to continue our coverage now of a very tragic situation that has been developing and is developing on the campus of Morgan State University in Northeast Baltimore, where about 2 hours ago there was a report of an active shooter on the campus. We do know that multiple people have been injured. We have a few details and very few details about what actually transpired. We do know, as we mentioned, multiple victims, an army of ambulances ascended there on the campus of Morgan State University to transport those who were injured. And as we said, right now we know that at least 4 people have been shot. Their conditions are unknown at this time. We are awaiting an update, and it's happening during homecoming, a time when there are a lot of students on campus, as well as alumni, other visitors there on campus. And this is supposed to be one of the happiest times of the year for any college or institution. But that is not the case. We're going to go now live to our reporters. Kelsey Kushner was the first reporter there on the scene, and she was just feet away from the building where we do believe that some of the shootings actually took place. Kelsey, what can you tell us?
Well, you know, Vic, I do just want to mention something really fast, because you just made a really interesting point there where, you know, this is homecoming week and it is a time to celebrate. There was a student who I spoke with who witnessed this entire thing go down. She says she has no idea what is even worth celebrating at this point because, you know, they're just afraid, they're scared, they're worried. This obviously overshadowing their entire homecoming week. So now it's just, you know, turning to questions as to like, what do we do next? But behind me here is, you can still see the dorm room that police are investigating, and that window that is, you know, kind of like the focus of their investigation. It's on the 7th floor of this freshman dorm room here. And I was standing right across from this dorm room, but within the past, let's say maybe a half hour, officials just pushed us back saying, you know, this is still an active scene, that you know, we have to be safe, everybody's sheltered in place. And they wanted us to move to a different location where we were not in, you know, the area that is completely blocked off right now. But we saw officers make their way inside, SWAT team members, ATF special agents are inside assisting Baltimore Police Department. We saw, you know, armed police officers walk into each one of the dorm rooms. Some of them had students inside, some of them did not have students inside, and they did a full sweep of that entire room, then closed the door and left and moved on to the next one. There was a chopper that was circling. I guess it's been circling probably about 2.5 hours now. It did just leave the scene within the past 5 minutes. So maybe, you know, that's a sign of hope for some people out here, that maybe we're kind of getting to a point where we can start getting some answers from the police department. But again, people out here tell me, you know, that they saw, they heard the gunshots. First they thought it was fireworks, and then they saw, you know, students kind of running across campus, some students with their arms up. And then, you know, students realized that this is a lot, you know, this is way more serious than what they thought at first. We've seen a number of students shelter in place inside this dorm room here that you're looking at. There were students in their dorm rooms, a lot of students that were kind of on that lower level, and also students who were sheltered in place outside of the building across this like green, there's like a green campus there, and or greenery, and they were across that field sheltering in place with school security. So as of right now, that shelter in place remains intact. Where I'm standing, you know, they're starting to, you know, receive a lot of like traffic from parents who are, you know, calling their kids out here, just sitting here waiting, trying to get some answers from their, you know, their kids or the police department, really, as to, you know, what went on and what's still going on. But we're waiting for that update from police. I know Christina Mendez has been standing by near that the police the setup that they have, where they're expected to give an update as to what's going on out here. I don't know if Christina has any new information or has heard anything from police at this time as to what's going on.
Yes, and actually I do have some new information to share with both of you that you will need to know. This coming from Ryan Dorsey, a call from Baltimore police about the shooting at Morgan State's campus. 5 victims now, none critical. Believes that there were 3 shooters firing into the crowd, none apprehended or ID'd at this time. Again, This number has changed. We understand now there are 5 victims, none of them in critical condition, and believe that there were 3 shooters firing into the crowd, none apprehended or ID'd at this time. This entire situation, much more disturbing than we thought earlier. Christina, your thoughts at this point?
I'm stunned hearing that, Vic, actually. I just spoke with 2 freshman women just starting their campus career, if you will, here at Morgan State University, who says that they were driving away and started hearing those pops, and they were just in disbelief that this would happen in the midst of homecoming and on campus where they live and are expected to be safe. That was their main point taken today. And one of them is waiting to get back on campus into her dorm room. She says that she will not be staying here tonight and likely not in the coming days. She's very, very disturbed by what happened here tonight. As for that press conference, Vic, and the new information that you're telling us here, that is just, it's hard to digest. And we are going to be talking with police officials who are expected to break down all of this confirmed information that they can feed us about what played out here on campus. We do still see at the moment a mobile command unit from the Baltimore City Fire Department is actually exiting campus as we speak, but the barrier of patrol cars, that remains. We still have not seen any students trickling out toward this street to connect with loved ones that are here along this major roadway. So it's unclear if that shelter in place is still intact at this moment, but we are waiting for this press conference to happen. I'm looking over just across the street here to check to see if there's any movement, and it still looks the same as it has since we got word that there would be a press conference. So we are still waiting on that confirmed information to trickle down. But regardless, from what we've heard tonight from people that attend this school, from parents with children on the other side of this situation, they're heartbroken tonight. They're really, really heartbroken that this happened here, and just like us, they want to know why.
Most definitely, and we all want to know why, and it's even more disturbing because of the new information that we got just a few moments ago. As I mentioned, we have been reporting 4 people injured. Now we know that there are 5 victims. That's according to Baltimore police, none of them in critical condition. And more disturbing, 3 shooters who were firing into a crowd, as we understand. And of course, neither of those shooters has been identified or apprehended. Sharing that new information, let's go now to Mike Helgren, who has also been monitoring the situation for us. This is quite a disturbing situation, Mike. Okay, the other update that we have for you right now, there's no longer an active shooter situation there on the campus. That has been canceled. No longer an active shooter. Do we have Mike Helgren for us? Okay. They're working to get Mike Helgren for us right now. This entire situation began to develop a little after 10 o'clock, if I remember correctly, when we started hearing on the scanners and in our newsroom about an active shooter on the campus of Morgan State University. Of course, with situations like this, we proceed with caution because sometimes those things resolve themselves or turn out not to be true. Unfortunately, this was true, that there was, in fact, an active shooter, or as active shooters, as we know, on the campus of Morgan State University. 5 victims, 3 shooters. Mike Helgren, with this new information, what do you make of this?
Well, I can tell you, Vic, even though it's no longer considered an active shooter situation, police are asking that everyone continue to shelter in place, and they're saying that they're going to brief the media very soon. We know a lot of the attention was focused on Thurgood Marshall Hall. It's a fairly large building, I think at least 9 stories, a number of different floor plans, including singles and doubles, and they have to go through every single one of those rooms to make sure that the situation is safe, especially considering those reports from Councilman Dorsey via police that there were possibly 3 shooters. And we know that they're looking at camera video. They're speaking to witnesses in this case, and they're coordinating a massive investigation. Again, good news that it's no longer considered an active shooter situation, but that shelter in place is continuing because they want to make sure that everyone is continuing to stay safe tonight. And I think that we're getting very much closer to that media briefing. The other good news is that no one of the victims is in critical condition, but we still don't know a motive. We know, again, as we've mentioned repeatedly, that there were so many people on campus for homecoming events. There was the Mr. and Miss Morgan State coronation that was happening this evening, starting a few hours before this situation unfolded. And this is a fairly large campus with enrollment of more than 9,000 students, and they have to make sure that every single one of those students is safe. And so, as we've been saying, this is going to take quite a while, but good news that there is no longer an active shooter situation there on campus at this hour.
Most definitely, and it appears as evidence of that, we have seen them releasing some of the resources that they had rallied there. We saw a command center from the fire department being released. We saw an ambulance or 2 leaving the scene. However, a very heavy police presence still there on the campus of Morgan State University. As you mentioned, they are going room to room, checking each and every room. 3 shooters now. Mike, let's talk about that for just a moment. 3 shooters, and originally they were saying that they were firing into the crowd. That is absolutely disturbing.
Well, Vic, it is, and we don't know the motive. We don't have any description at this time, and we'll have to wait and see what police say, when they make their formal remarks on if they say anything about motive or if they've taken anyone into custody. There are no reports at this hour, at least officially from police, that anyone has been taken into custody. However, them signifying that there's no longer an active shooter means that they must have some information to believe that there is less of a threat out there right now. We don't know whether they recovered any weapons or what weapons were used in this particular case and how all of this started. So there are a lot of important questions that need to be answered, and we might not get all the answers tonight, but hopefully we'll get some of the basic ones.
And it's also such a damper on not just the fact that this is Morgan State University's homecoming. College campuses are places where kids go to discover themselves. It's where they make that transformation from young men and young women to full-grown men and women who have some direction in terms of what they want to do with the rest of their lives. And right now they're doing it in the shadow of a very tragic situation, a fearful situation. And, this is going to have some effect on those students, don't you think?
Vic, definitely, as we've seen in situations that we've covered, unfortunately, so many of them, all too many of them here in Baltimore, just the trauma that people feel, even being part of a lockdown situation, and then, those who were injured in this, those who witnessed it, those who heard the shots, and being on campus, you're supposed to be safe, and you're supposed to have that sense of security, and I'm sure for some that really has been shattered. We haven't seen a situation, like this, but there was a shooting last October, at an unofficial homecoming party there, and we can see from what people are posting that has also weighed heavily on some minds, and a lot of people just are heartbroken that something like this would happen during what really is supposed to be a joyous time there in Morgan.
And most definitely, and of course we saw it not that long ago. Remember down at Virginia Tech, there was a shooting on campus there. Similar situation. However, there was one shooter there. It was targeted to one person, but nevertheless, students went into lockdown. And of course, that campus had seen such a more tragic situation years earlier.
And it's important to note, yes, and that, people who are still waiting for information need to, before they stop their shelter in place, to get those official directives to make sure that they're 100% safe before they can leave their spaces, leave their dorm rooms, wherever they are. We know we have a lot of concerned parents, loved ones, who are waiting for information in this. And I'm sure that officials want to get, everything straight and make sure that they, have a complete briefing, as complete as it can be, for what happened before they speak to the press. Again, no official statements from the mayor at this point, no comments yet officially from police, but hopefully that's going to happen soon. Again, this is just extraordinarily traumatic for anybody who had to go through this, who had to witness this. Just heartbreaking for that campus.
Absolutely, and just doing some quick research here, bestcolleges.com says since 1966 there have been 12 shootings at college campuses where more than 3 people were in fact killed. And outside of mass shootings, there have been over 300 instances of gunfire on college campuses, killing 94 people and injuring 215. So this is not something that's happening just in one location. This is part of a bigger issue that is happening all across the United States right now. We're going to go back now to Christina Mendez, who is also there on campus and has been there since shortly after the first calls went out. Christina, what can you tell us?
With a mother who has been on the phone with her son since this all started to unfold. She says that at this moment they are still sheltering in place. She didn't specify where exactly her son is, but she says that he's safe and that the shelter in place still remains in effect at this moment. As far as the press conference, that remains to be seen. We understand it's supposed to happen pretty soon here, but we have not seen any movement from where that's supposed to take place, which is just across the street from where I am right now. We do know that this whole area still remains completely blocked off, so students still waiting out here to try to get back on campus, parents waiting to connect with their child on the other side of this scene. At the moment, we're actually seeing the helicopter pop back up. We are seeing a couple flashing lights internally on campus still at this moment. But again, we are waiting for Baltimore City Police to work on breaking down exactly what they have confirmed about this situation to relay that to us. They know that they are working with ATF as well. So multi-agency response to the shooting at Morgan State University. There's actually less parents here now than there were when we first got on scene at this point a couple hours ago. So it seems like now that they understand this is no longer considered, number one, an active shooter situation, and also that they've been able to connect with their loved one, it seems like a lot of people have started to trickle down from this scene from where we are. We are still working to get an update on when exactly this press conference is happening. Checking one more time before we toss it back. I'm not seeing any movement still, but as soon as it happens, we will let you know.
Okay, Christina, most definitely we want to update the entire situation for you. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, that there was an active shooter situation on the campus of Morgan State University. Calls came in sometime after 10 o'clock, and we, of course, marshaled our teams and sent them over there immediately. Right now, we do know that there are 5 victims, none of them in critical condition. There were 3 shooters, none of them apprehended or ID'd. No word now on a motive or what caused this entire thing to develop. This all happening on the campus of Morgan State at a time when it's supposed to be one of the most fun times ever. It's homecoming week, and some wonderful things have been happening there on that campus. And of course, this shatters the sense of security that a lot of students have there, as well as a lot of parents have for the safety of their children. Understandably, Morgan State University has a history of really being fairly aggressive in terms of protecting and keeping students safe. And but it's a big campus. There are a lot of students coming and going. Who knows what is able to do in terms of curbing that. And any family members who are concerned about their loved ones, if you haven't been able to reach them, there still is a staging area that's over at the Safeway. That's at 4401 Harford Road. And right now, police have said there's no longer an active shooter situation. That parking lot, as we mentioned, at Safeway is available right now at 4401 Harford Road. There are people there to answer your questions, but most of all, they want you to avoid the campus area, something that we've been telling you for a number of hours. And as Christina mentioned, a number of parents have now they're satisfied, their young ones are okay, and they've been leaving the area and going back home. We are awaiting word right now from Baltimore police as well as any other agencies that are actively involved in the investigation right now. We do know that state police, the ATF, possibly FBI, and of course Baltimore City Police, as well as the other agencies that are available nearby. Let's go down back to Kelsey Kushner, who was one of the first reporters there on the scene. Kelsey.
Vic, well, it certainly is somewhat welcoming news, right? Hearing that none of those victims are in critical condition is a little bit of, a relief maybe for students, who were really concerned for their friends who were inside that building or in around the area, at the time when that shooting happened. But behind me here is that building that police are focusing in on that freshman dorm room. Of course, we were pushed back. We were closer to it, but we got pushed back because police said that this is an active scene and they wanted everybody to kind of clear that area. But we did watch officers, go door to door inside that dorm building, clearing each area, talking to the student. Maybe for a second, the student would have their hands up. They'd do a sweep of the room and then they would leave. And we saw, students kind of come out of the building with their hands up. A lot of kids were sheltering in place, either in their dorm room or outside or in the area, trying to stay away from the scene as much as they can. There have been parents who have been arriving out here on scene. They're asking us questions if we have any information, trying to talk to them. They said that they're still shaken up about what's going on out here. It's not an active shooter scene, which is also a bit of a relief, a big relief really for students and parents who are out here, trying to get some answers as to what happened out here. But parents, I spoke with this one woman who says, she just wanted to be out here on scene when they finally, allow people to come out of the building, because it was important for her to kind of be in this area and make sure that students, although she said she doesn't have a child here, she just wanted to make sure that, people are okay, because I kind of get the sense, Morgan State University is it's a big family here, and everyone's, wants to look out for each other and make sure that everybody is okay. But we do still see that chopper that's circling the building. Officers still have a lot of these roadways blocked off. And before we were asked to leave the area, we did see the SWAT team, the ATF special agents make their way inside that building along with police officers before they roped off that entire area and pushed everybody back.
And Kelsey, we understand that Mayor Brandon Scott is there on the scene somewhere in the area, will likely be a part of this news conference when and if it happens sometime soon, we hope. Have you seen anyone else representing either government or police or fire officials?
I have not seen anybody. The only people who I have seen, have been the officers, have been the SWAT team, the special agents making their way inside that building. I did not see Brandon Scott even when I was closer to the building. I've not seen the police commissioner out here either, and it doesn't look like they this kind of area over here is where they're expected to take that press conference from police, but we haven't seen anybody step up to the podium yet or kind of make their way over here as if, they're about to kind of give that update just yet. I did speak with, someone from the Baltimore City Police Department a short time ago who said, that they will be providing an update soon. They are still gathering their information. There's been a lot of information, a lot of rumors that have been circulating through students. So I think they kind of have to clear, get the proper information before, sending it out to us here at this press conference.
Right, and Kelsey, of course, we also know that they're, from talking to some of the other people who are out there, they have loved ones who are in other buildings, not just there at Thurgood Marshall, other buildings who are on lockdown as well. I could imagine that this is going to be a massive undertaking, making sure all those people, A, are notified that it's okay to go, and B, for them to sweep those buildings. And they're huge buildings right there nearby.
There's a number of large buildings around here, and we haven't heard that the shelter in place has been lifted yet. So there are still a lot of students who are, either wherever they might be really. And some of the kids that I was talking to are very concerned about their friends. One girl said her friend was in that building, when the shots were fired, whether it was outside the building, inside the building, doesn't matter. She said she was still very worried about her. And she's a freshman here at Morgan State University. And, I think one thing that's what's really important is a lot of these kids need to know if they are safe on campus right now. I know that it's no longer an active shooter situation, but for a while, there was. And I think that, a lot of students, they are very concerned. They want to get that information. They want to see their family. And I'm hoping that, pretty soon we will get that update from police.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelsey. And of course, we'll be getting back to you and hopefully we'll have additional information that we'll all be able to share. We're going to go back now to Mike Helgren. And Mike, you and I have been talking about the fact that this is all too frequent an occurrence that is happening now with shootings involving multiple people, sometimes multiple guns. What is your take right now on the situation in terms of college campuses?
Well, one thing that police in the coming days and city leaders and others are going, and also university leadership are going to have to, reassure students about their security. And there also is likely to be a counseling component of this to any students who were traumatized by this or witnessed this. We are getting now our first statement from Mayor Brandon Scott, who just placed on social media a few minutes ago that he is on scene there at Morgan State with university leaders, Baltimore police, and federal and state law enforcement partners. He reiterated that it's no longer considered an active shooter situation, but he says there remains an ongoing investigation, and again said that media briefing would be coming soon. So again, the mayor is there on the scene. But really, questions as to how and why this happened, the motive, we may not get those tonight, but we may get at least some idea of the basics. And it's a very close, tight-knit community, and we know that the Morgan community is going to come together and support each other. But there's been a lot of trauma that a number of people have witnessed tonight, so there's likely going to be, counselors there for any students who are dealing with this. And then also there's probably going to be a review of any response. And, in the coming days, hopefully we'll learn more details about what happened. Still, there's been no official word that there has been any arrests in this case. And they're still asking that students stay where they are at this point. So still an anxious evening for parents. And we've, as you said, unfortunately seen this kind of situation play out not only at schools, but also at workplaces. The terrifying situation a few years ago at the granite business there in Harford County, and so many others. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully, we'll at least be able to get to the bottom of this and be able to assure students that they're safe. And that's something that's going to be, a big priority for university leadership moving forward here.
Most definitely. And Mike, what we're seeing right now on this street corner right here, our camera is capturing family members who are awaiting information, likely awaiting for more information that just as we are from this news conference that we are told is going to happen sometime really soon. But these are parents who flocked to the campus concerned about their children. And unfortunately, they were unable to get any closer to get any information. And of course, there also is the location for them to go to at 4401 Harford Road at the Safeway parking lot there, where officers can also answer and give them what little bit of information that they have available to them. Recapping our situation right now, an active shooter situation is no longer in existence at Morgan State University. The shelter in place, we understand, has not been lifted. There were 5 victims, none of them in critical condition. 3 shooters, we are told, none apprehended or ID'd at this time. And so the search continues for whoever is responsible for this tragedy on the campus of Morgan State University. The blessing is that no one was killed so far, and their injuries are not serious at this point. We're going to go back and take a look at some of the video from down there. There's a gentleman there on his cell phone talking to obviously someone who's trying to give him, or he's trying to get more information or give more information to someone. This has been a very tense situation for parents and for police officers and for students who are all involved in this unfortunate situation where 3 shooters opened fire on the college campus where homecoming activities were underway. And there we're seeing a sky view looking down at all the ambulances and also some of the emergency response vehicles that were called to the scene right after this occurred. There is a police precinct, as we mentioned, not far from this particular location, so they were able to get people there very, very quickly. More video from some of the dormitories that are there on campus. This, of course, is a very tragic situation that we are continuing to monitor as best we can at this point. News conference, we're waiting, as we mentioned, to happen just about any time now. And we have some sound right now from earlier this evening, shortly after everything happened.
And they started running down the stairs, running towards the little lounge area, and then all the police started running, because at first the police were the police that had the green, that's that SWAT. They were walking down this way towards where they were putting the bullet cones down. And then all of a sudden, after the gunshots, they all just ran and went up into the building. Nobody hadn't come out yet.
Okay, there he was talking about one little item that escaped me earlier, and then he said that they were putting down cones marking where bullets had fallen, bullet cones, as he called them right now, presumably outside the building. Let's go back to Christina Mendez, who is standing by now, awaiting new information about what transpired this evening. Christina?
Vic, right now we're still waiting for that press conference to happen. We are all waiting in anticipation those new details to come out. What I can tell you from talking with several parents who have remained on the phone with their children on the other side of this scene, they say the shelter in place is still in effect. They say that their students are safe, but you can see a lot of parents here behind me. They want to physically connect with their child at this point. It can't happen, though. We've seen many people trying to talk with police officers at this intersection here, trying to get some approval of going onto campus to get their child and remove them from campus, but that is a no-go so far. The good news, though, the parents that I've spoken with so far have been able to at least make contact with their child, and they are safe on this end that we know of. Right now, there's a lot of frustration building here, though. I think that students who want to get on campus to retrieve their belongings to get back off campus, they're wondering when that is going to happen. More importantly, they want to know what happened, what exactly unfolded. I spoke to two freshman women earlier today who say that just as they were leaving campus, they heard several pop noises and really were just stunned. They couldn't believe that it could be potentially gunfire. Now looking back, of course, we know that's exactly what it was. So they are here actually with us at the scene as well. They're waiting to get more information about when they can get on campus and, again, to get back off. They have no plans of staying here, which is unfortunate to hear for them. We are right now seeing that this entire campus is still blocked at this moment. So when and if that changes, we will, of course, let you know. I'm taking another look of where this press conference is supposed to happen, which is just across the street from where we are now. And I'm not seeing any officials, Vic. I'm not seeing the mayor, the police commissioner, or anyone else covering this district at the moment, other than, of course, the patrol working officers who have been on the scene from the very beginning. The helicopter, though, if you can hear it, Vic, that's still up. It is still circling the building in question and has been. But we haven't seen any other ambulances, fire, EMS leaving or coming into the scene at this point. So again, we are just waiting to hear what exactly is going to transpire in terms of this press conference happening. We have not heard an exact time frame. We are still waiting.
Thank you very much, and presumably we're hoping that Dr. David Wilson will be there as part of that news conference. He's the president of Morgan State University and has been the president since 2010. Let's go back to Kelsey Kushner right now, and you got to wonder, Kelsey, what does this mean for homecoming festivities that they spent so much time planning and hopefully executing and looking forward to enjoying this week?
Well, Vic, that was one question that I asked a student today, and she said that it's kind of hard to celebrate homecoming with all of this that just happened tonight. She said, in her words, what exactly is there, to celebrate for? What are we celebrating? This has, been a really traumatizing day for a lot of students, especially students that I spoke with who were inside that building or by that building when these shots broke out. I mean, she told me, she thought that they were fireworks and then didn't realize until much later that, this was actually a very serious situation that was going on. We did just see Council Member Odette Ramos arrive on scene, which maybe, be some good news that media conference is going to take place anytime soon. I was talking with some parents out here. The gentleman on his cell phone, I politely asked him if he'd be willing to kind of share his thoughts and his experience as to what's going on, but he's on the phone with his child and there was nothing, that would pull him away, and rightfully so, because a lot of parents out here, even though it's not an active police shooting, or not an active shooting situation right now, they still are very concerned and they want to just, to talk to their kid and make sure that they're okay. But again, I spoke with some people out here. One gentleman said that he saw kids running across the campus with their hands up. Some kids were screaming. A lot of students, when I arrived here on scene, were hopping in their car and driving away. This was well before the roads were even blocked off. So now students who are on campus are pretty much, on lockdown until police give them the go. But I did speak with one student. She's a freshman. She was, her friend was in that building at the time when the shots broke out. Take a listen to what she had to say.
I thought it was fireworks, so I assumed, but then I seen the sparks and people instantly running, people screaming, oh my gosh, it was a lot, like it really was a lot. And then two people were, well, I thought it was two at first, but fell laying in the fields. A lot of people running, panicking, and it was a lot.
Again, that was a freshman here on campus who has to now deal with this and deal with the trauma and everything that, comes after this shooting. Her first year here on campus, and she's on lockdown for a good portion of her Tuesday night. But we still see the chopper that's flying above us. Police, again, I don't know if we want to take another shot there at that window that police were focusing a lot of their investigation on. And that's on the 7th floor of the dorm building, predominantly a freshman dorm building, I'm told, right in the middle of campus. And there are still a number of students who are on lockdown or sheltering in place in that dorm building, and also, in their room or on, the bottom floor. We did see SWAT team members going door to door. They were armed. They were doing like sweeps of each dorm building before clearing that room and then moving on to the next one. But, it is great news that this is no longer an active shooting situation. But now kind of we focus all of our efforts on, okay, well, now what? Are the shooters, in custody? Do we know who they are? Are they still on campus? There's still a lot of questions that students have that they want the answers to know if they are safe, and parents too. Everybody wants to know if they're safe to be out here on campus. So again, Vic, a lot of questions out here tonight, and we're hoping, I know we've been saying it, for the past 2 hours, almost hour and a half, that we can get that update from police. But I think, it's really important that they do kind of give us some answers as to what's going on out here.
Most definitely. And let's put in perspective Morgan State University. 9,300 students there with a goal of up to 10,000. That's according to the President Wilson. And they wanted to make sure that they retain students, and they've done that and had a really good job at that, building research centers left and right over there on the campus right now. We want to continue to look at the impact that this entire situation is having on the campus of Morgan State University, especially the families who are very, very concerned about their young people. Of course, right now, this is no longer an active shooter situation. Parents who have concerns should go to the Safeway parking lot at 4401 Harford Road, and by all means avoid the campus area. Of course, we can say that, and we can also understand that they would want to flock over there right now. We're going to go back out to one of our live cameras right now where a council member has shown up there representing that district. Who do we have there? Christina Mendez.
Hey, Hey, Vic. So as Kelsey mentioned, Odette Ramos came on the scene, and we did see her. So we wanted to pull her aside and just talk with her about kind of your feeling as you're learning at least what we know of as this not being an active shooter situation anymore on campus. When you first learned about what was going on, though, what was your initial reaction?
Oh, obviously, I was horrified for the campus and for the students. I know that it's extremely scary, and so could understand that they're obviously traumatized and need to have that support. But also not having information is tough as well. But I also know that we want to make sure that we're giving you good information, so we're waiting on that. But yeah, it's a sad evening, especially since Morgan has homecoming coming up, and that is usually a big celebration of how wonderful the campus is, and it still is. There's a lot of progress being made. I'm also I was relieved to realize that the people who were injured are going to be okay. That obviously they're still traumatized and they're still going through a lot, so they're going to need our support as well. But yeah, obviously a very, very disturbing situation.
As far as the press conference goes, you came here to show support, I'm assuming, to families and students. Do you have any idea of when that will happen tonight?
I don't. I don't know that. Obviously, the BPD and the mayor's office are working on trying to make sure that they're giving us accurate information. Everything was moving so quickly. There was a lot of different information floating around, and trying to get to really the bottom of it. And then obviously we're seeing students and others wanting to get back in to get their stuff. So everybody's kind of waiting on what's happening. But yes, I'm here to show my support to the students. I represent the other side of Argonne Drive, but obviously, Morgan is a very important part of our city. Many of my residents in the area are concerned, so working with them on, what the information is as well. When this is a shelter-in-place order here in Morgan, did they need a shelter-in-place? And we just wanted everybody to kind of avoid the area and let the police do their job. So I'm very hopeful that we'll get some more information. I hope that the people who are hurt are going to be okay. We know that they are going to be, but it's going to take a lot of time to recover. And I, offer my support to the Morgan campus. Whatever we need, whatever they need, we'll be certainly happy to help them.
Odette Ramos there with Baltimore City Council. Thank you so much for helping us out with that information tonight. Back in the studio, I'll toss it to you. And we, of course, once this press conference gets going, we will break back in live.
Okay, Christina, thank you very much, and thank you, Council Member Ramos, for your comments and your concerns there for the campus of Morgan State University, certainly in your district. Let's recap what has transpired here this evening. Shortly after 10 o'clock, we got the call that there was an active shooter on the campus of Morgan State University. Right now, we know that there are 5 victims, none critical, and there were 3 shooters, which is probably one of the most disturbing factors of this entire situation, none of whom have been apprehended and none of whom have been identified. Mike Helgren has been monitoring this situation right now. Let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what has transpired here, Mike. The fact that they don't have an ID or are not releasing any IDs just yet. Perhaps they may do that during this news conference to give us a little bit more information about these 3 shooters. But how disturbing is it that we have 3 shooters on a college campus all at one time?
Well, very, Vic, and we don't have any, idea of what the weapons were that were used. We are getting some confirmation just in from the FBI, and I want to read you their statement that they have personnel on the scene offering assistance to their partners with the Baltimore Police Force at Morgan State University tonight. And they again note that people in the area are still being asked to shelter in place. They're asking that all media inquiries go to the Baltimore Police Department. But new confirmation, as we expected, that the FBI also has personnel on scene as well as the ATF. And I was watching one video that a student had posted, and you can see heavily armed officers knocking on his door, going in to make sure that everyone is okay and they have to do that for every single room. And in that massive building, the Thurgood Marshall Hall, a fairly new residential hall, at least 9 stories that they have to go through. There's also a large dining hall. And that new residential hall has been a point of pride for the university as they have expanded over the years. And there's, let's put this, put an exclamation point on this, that there's so much good happening at Morgan State University. And, we've seen posts from a number of alums and a number of students who don't want this violence tonight to overshadow that. But one thing that we hopefully will learn is whether they do have anyone in custody, whether there's any description. Hopefully we'll get some answers from the university as to what their next steps are going forward for any homecoming celebrations. I think the biggest, most important question that police have to answer or reassure the campus is that they are safe, that there is no further threat. Vic.
Oh, most definitely. That, above all, is making sure that everyone is safe right this very moment, and that they have the situation well in hand, and that students at least feel safe enough for the evening, although their safety has been shattered here this evening. Let's go back to Christina Mendez, who has been talking to a number of people who were there in the area, including a parent. Christina.
Hey, Vic. So I'm with Glenmore, who is a parent of a senior on campus. We spoke earlier in the evening. Walk me through again, though, when you initially learned about what was going on campus, what was going through your mind, and why you decided to come.
Well, I decided to come because they were participating in an event in the Murphy Auditorium, and after that event, my son was conducting a prayer service for the Morgan students. He's been doing it for a couple nights now, and I just thought it was important that while they were inside praying, while this was happening, that we needed to also lend our support on the outside to do the very same. As a parent, you're always concerned about your children, no matter their age and what they're doing. And I think it was important for him to know that I was out here.
And you were able to talk with him over the phone?
Yeah, I spoke to him. He's doing fine. They're told just to shelter in place. And he's pretty much a big part of the support system inside and making sure everyone is doing okay.
And students, staff who were on here when this all was unfolding are especially going to need to kind of work through the trauma of witnessing, listening to gunshots, seeing what they did. How do you think your son will come into play throughout the next coming days and weeks?
Well, he actually has a ministry that he's been doing things like this. It's called The Hub. And he has a great support system, his leaders around him, and supportive parents and families. And I think also on campus, he's a part of that. I know he's participated with the Student Center. And I just think that we just need to subscribe to every rehabilitation process that we can and lend out, not just tonight, because triggers will happen. And students, a lot of the students who are here, their parents are miles away and they can't be here. So we stand with all of the parents who are not able to be here tonight, just letting you know that we're here not just to support my son, but all of the kids that's here.
And are you planning on staying here until you're able to physically see your son?
Absolutely. I want that hug. I need to put my arms around him. I need to give him a kiss. I just need him to hear my voice, not just for me, but for my entire family, his mom, so that they know that he knows that we're all here. But yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah.
We're still waiting for a lot of the details to be confirmed by police about what exactly happened on campus. As a parent who had a student there, during something like this? Is it surreal? Is it hard to grasp? Or are you not shocked that something like this happened?
So I've worked with several different agencies with Baltimore City. We've been trying to fight crime for the longest time, not just our church, but many different civic organizations, ACT Now. We've been trying to do our very best to have folks to put the guns down, resolve issues and problems in a more civil way. And so, yeah, you see the news, you see it on the reports, but whenever it's your child and you hear a gun is involved, yeah, it's very scary. But we do have to approach the matter, and we have to hit it head on and combat it. We can't let those who are dealing with issues this way feel within themselves that we're going to back away from doing the right thing. So, yeah, we're here. I'm not going anywhere. I want to see him come down that walkway.
Glenmore, thank you so much, and we're so thankful that your son is okay. Really,
Yeah,
thank you for your time and your positivity. I think that we could all lean on that right now.
Yeah, and to all the parents, those who are home and those who are concerned about what how their children are doing, we're here. We're going to make sure that before we leave, we also offer a prayer and for comfort. All right.
Thank you, Glenmore. Thank you. I just checked behind us where the press conference is going to be taking place. We're going to keep a close eye on that for now. I'm going to toss it over to Vic back in the studio while we await those details to come down.
What a powerful statement coming from that man. I feel calmer now, and I'm sure everyone who heard his words feel much calmer about the entire situation. We are continuing to talk to a number of other people who are there on the scene. Let's go now to Kelsey Kushner, who has someone she's talking with right now. Kelsey.
Yeah, Vic, this is Damari. He is a junior here at Morgan State. Now, you said you drove right over here as soon as you heard what was going on. Can you kind of talk to me about how you're feeling right now?
Honestly, just really anxious, knowing that something like this happened on campus, and this is not the first time this happened for homecoming. It's just very troubling to know that people come here and try to get an education and just have fun, and stuff like this happens.
Now, where were you when you found out about this news?
I was nearby. I was on my way home, and then I found out, and I just called my friend to make sure he was okay because I knew he was on campus. So I came down to make sure everything was fine, but I was just on my way home when I found out.
You said your friend currently is on lockdown in the area. Can you kind of, have you talked to him at all? Can you kind of talk to me about, what he said's going on?
Yeah, when I called him, he told me he was on lockdown, that they had him in the student center. He was just keeping me updated on what he knew, what was happening, and I could only imagine he would be feeling anxious and kind of scared too now. He was supposed to go to the coronation that was supposed to happen tonight, and I heard that it happened as people were going towards the coronation, so to only imagine that he would be in a situation where people shooting down at him and stuff is kind of just mind-boggling.
But he's okay?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay. And I guess, what are your thoughts? This is supposed to be like a really exciting week, right? It's homecoming, and now you guys have the trauma from this. Can you kind of talk to me about like how that feels?
It makes you on edge. Like, I'm very on edge. Like you said, this beginning of homecoming, a lot of people were planning on going to a lot of the homecoming events, but I've heard so many people in a group chat and like just Morgan students claiming how nervous they are to even go to class or go to any other homecoming events. It's kind of just makes you feel like, should I even be here? Like, nobody wants to be here anymore. Like, I've heard people say they wanted class to be canceled for a week because of this. It's very traumatizing.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm so glad that you are safe and you are okay, and I'm glad that your friend is safe. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Vic, this is just, I've been talking to a number of people out here today, and they're kind of, all sharing the same thoughts, the same anxieties, like a lot of questions about what's going on out here. What somebody thought were fireworks, for a celebration of homecoming now turned out to be gunfire with 5 people who are injured. Fortunately, you know, no one is in critical condition, but still, I mean, the trauma that comes from this, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot for students to process, and especially now, you know, like, you know, it's no longer an active shooting situation, but I mean, it's still a very big deal, and there's still a lot of, you know, questions that kids have about, you know, what's going on their campus. Like, is the person or persons who did this in police custody? Are they still out there? Did they catch them? Like, what's going on? So, you know, I can't even imagine what a lot of students out here are facing, what parents out here are feeling about what's going on. You know, we keep saying it over and over and over that we're waiting for police to give us this update, and hopefully that's going to happen soon. But, you know, who knows at this point? But police, you know, are still out here. It's still a very active scene. So even if it's not an active shooting situation, this entire investigation that's going on isn't really calming anybody down that much, because there are still students that are on lockdown. There are still parents who aren't able to, you know, grab their kid and make sure that they're okay. And I think the anxiety as the night goes on is just kind of starting to build and build and build. And, you know, hopefully we can get some answers to the number of questions that we have out here tonight. Vic?
Most definitely. Thank you very much, Kelsey. Great job, both you and Christina, in talking to a number of people. We want to bring you some of the facts from this evening as we take a look there on their screen. No longer an active shooter situation on the campus of Morgan State University. We do know that there are 5 victims, none of them in critical condition. There were 3 shooters. We are told there may have been shooting into a crowd. None of those shooters has been identified. Parents who are concerned about the safety of their children, there are still people available for you at the Safeway parking lot at 4401 Harford Road, although we have seen a number of parents who are there on the side of the road waiting now. And as we heard from one gentleman, he's not going anywhere until he can hug and kiss his son who is inside, a young man who was inside leading a prayer service and worship at the time of the shooting. Let's go back to Mike Helgren. These parents and these friends and these concerned ones, you've got to feel for them, Mike.
Yeah, and Vic, you do, and hearing that father talk about how he just wanted to physically just put his arms around his child, and I think there are so many in the community who are feeling that way. We just did get a breaking update from Morgan State University. They say that the shelter-in-place order on campus has now been lifted. Again, the shelter-in-place order on campus has been lifted. They say shuttle services have resumed, and they're going to continue to update the campus community. We know students have been getting emails. They're connected through text. But keep in mind, we're going on close to 3 hours here without any official statement on camera from officials, from the police department, from the mayor, who we know is there on scene and has been in coordination and been speaking to university officials. We know that the FBI, ATF, and Maryland State Police are there assisting in this. And the breaking news again, that the shelter-in-place order on campus has now been lifted, according to an official communication from Morgan State University. We don't know whether anyone is in custody at this point, and we don't have questions on. We have questions about what's next, especially for the homecoming events and also for counseling and healing in the community, and the security of that campus. And these university campuses are generally open, and it can be very difficult to secure such a large and open space. Yes, there are security protocols in the buildings, but you can't, put an officer or a guard on every corner, and that is a challenge that we've seen not just at Morgan, but elsewhere. And so I think, the university is going to have some discussions about security moving forward. But we're right now, again, almost 3 hours in and waiting for those official facts to come in from authorities, Vic.
Yes, I can imagine so. And I've just been texting here with a friend whose son is at Morgan State University. I asked him if she had checked on her son. She said, yes, I have. Thankfully, he's fine, nowhere near the chaos. And her next line was, I am tempted to fly him home tomorrow. So you can imagine a lot of parents are concerned about their loved ones and will just want to see them if they possibly can. And if short of that, hearing their voice and making sure that they are okay. We are continuing to stand by here, waiting on news from the police department, the FBI, the ATF, and a number of other agencies that are involved in this investigation right now, not having anybody in custody that we know of at this moment. 3 shooters who are responsible for 5 victims being injured. Those victims transported to hospitals in the area. And as we said, none of their injuries appears to be serious at this point, definitely non-critical. Big question now is why? Why did this happen? How did it happen? The salient details that we have not been able to bring you all evening. We are awaiting for them right now, as we said, from multiple agencies who are involved in this investigation. Mike, as we are awaiting word from the police department, what would you imagine that they are doing right now? Obviously, want to be very careful about the information that they do release and making sure that it's accurate.
Well, and that's one of the things that Councilmember Ramos said, that they want to get all the facts straight before they get in front of the cameras. But again, it's been, quite a long time at this point. We are getting, just some basic information through Twitter on this, or what, X, formerly known as Twitter, but no, nothing official as far as nuts and bolts here. Again, the good news is, just coming in from Morgan, that the shelter in place has been lifted, but a lot of questions here remain unanswered right now. We know the school has resumed shuttle services, that hopefully people can reunite with their loved ones. We know that students have been getting text alerts, getting email alerts, trying to keep them informed of what is going on. And as we've been talking, Vic, that, this Thurgood Marshall Hall is a very, very large building. So it took a long time, I'm sure, for police to go through that. And now that there's no shelter in place, we can assume that they have gone through every single dorm, room in that dorm, and all the public areas, and made sure that area that is safe for students. But so much heartbreak to have this happening on homecoming weekend, and we don't know at this point what the delay is for authorities to speak, but hopefully they're just trying to get all the information together in one place to give people some answers that are so desperately needed at this hour.
Which is all the more reason that you can understand how Odette Ramos feels about this entire situation. She represents District 14. We had her here just a little while ago. She is a graduate of Goucher College here in Baltimore, and served as the president of the student government there for 3 years. Let's listen in to what she had to say earlier as she talked to our reporters.
Many of my residents in the area are concerned, so working with them on, what the information is as well. When this is a shelter-in-place order here at Morgan,